Everything in the mine was ordinary. The noise, the dust, the echo of metal. The shift had begun, and everyone was focused on their work. Underground hours moved differently from those above ground. Time felt heavier, but it was familiar. No one thought that this day would be any different from the others. Then the ground shook. At first, there was a brief tremor. Then, a much stronger impact. Part of the ceiling collapsed. The lights went out. A cloud of dust reduced visibility to nothing. People dropped to the ground on instinct. Some shouted. Others stayed silent. Within seconds, the order of the mine was completely destroyed. When the dust began to settle, it became clear that the exit was blocked. The main tunnel had collapsed. Going back was impossible. Alternative routes were checked. All of them were closed. Deep inside the mine, a group of workers was completely isolated. They could not reach the surface, and they could not communicate with the outside world. In the first hours, panic was kept under control. The more experienced workers spoke. "This has happened before," they said. "They will open it soon." A head count was taken. Everyone who was trapped was identified. Everyone was accounted for. No one was missing. This brought a small sense of relief, because uncertainty was heavier than loss. Food supplies were checked. There was enough for a few days. Water was limited. Light sources were conserved. Phones had no signal. There was no radio. Hundreds of meters underground, all connection to the outside world had been cut. And yet, there was still hope, because not much time had passed. Hours turned into days. No sound came from above, no drilling, no machines, no voices. Only the heavy silence of the underground. Food began to be rationed. Everyone received the same amount. No one objected. Because if order broke down here, everything would break down. On the second day, some began to calculate how much food was left, how many days they could endure. These conversations did not last long. No one wanted to speak the worst possibilities out loud, because words could summon reality. On the third day, the air began to feel heavier. Humidity increased. The temperature rose. Sleep patterns collapsed. Some could not sleep at all. Others did not want to wake up for hours. The sense of time slowly dissolved. The difference between day and night was measured only by exhaustion. And at some point, one of them said a sentence. No one argued. They are not going to get us out quickly. In that moment, they understood that this waiting was not a rescue process. It was going to be a long stay. And this stay would have to be endured not only with the body, but with the mind as well. For those trapped underground, only one question remained. Not when they would get out, but how they would endure. As the days passed, life underground could no longer be sustained through improvisation. The initial panic had faded, but it was replaced by something more dangerous: uncertainty. No one knew what was happening above. They did not know how long excavation had been underway, whether it had even begun, or if anyone outside was truly looking for them. At this point, order became essential. One of them spoke up. He did not raise his voice. He did not give commands. He simply listed what needed to be done: who would sleep when, who would speak when, who would distribute the food. This was not leadership in the traditional sense, but a survival instinct. No one objected, because chaos in this darkness could mean the end for everyone. The food was calculated. Rations were set. Daily portions grew smaller. In the early days, accepting this was difficult, but before long, everyone accepted the same reality. Eating more today meant starving tomorrow. Hunger became an enemy that had to be managed with patience. The concept of time was redefined. Hours were meaningless. Even counting days was demoralizing. Instead, routines were created. A time that could be called morning, periods of rest, moments of silence. Some told stories, some prayed, Some simply listened. Talking thinned the darkness underground, if only a little. Above ground, a different world was forming. Families gathered around the mine. Cameras arrived. Engineers, geologists, rescue teams. Everyone was doing something. But this activity had not yet reached below the surface. For the miners, this meant an unknown hope. They knew it existed, but they could not feel it. One day, an unexpected sound was heard, distant, metallic. At first, no one was sure. Was it imagination or reality? Then, the sound came again, clearer. Something was happening above. It was the first sign of the outside world they had heard in weeks. Underground, movement spread. The silence was broken, but no one dared to celebrate. Hours later, an object fell through a small hole. A note, a short message. The first real contact with the surface. We are alive. Those two words rose from beneath the earth and spread across the world. In that moment, everyone felt the same thing. They had been found, but that did not mean they were saved. Soon after, another message arrived. Rescue would be possible, but it would take time. It could take months. This news brought hope, but also a new burden. They would have to wait, and this waiting would be far heavier than the first days. Because now they knew they would be rescued, but no one could say when. As the waiting dragged on, bodies grew weaker and minds grew tired. Days turned into weeks and weeks into months. Underground, time did not move forward, it moved inward. Everyone was thinking the same question, but no one dared to say it out loud. What if they do not make it in time? Above ground, rescue operations continued at full speed. Different plans were tested, machines were replaced, teams worked in rotating shifts. Each failed attempt made the silence underground feel heavier. But every new drilling sound was accepted by the miners as a sign, because sound was proof that they were not alone. Months later, a narrow capsule was prepared, small enough to descend underground, strong enough to carry a single person. It was designed for one at a time. This meant that rescue would happen individually. Who would go first? Who would be last? These questions were handled carefully, because underground, fairness was part of survival. When the first person entered the capsule, everyone fell silent. There was no applause, no shouting. As the capsule began moving upward, those left behind continued to wait in the darkness. Rescue had become something to watch, not something to experience. One by one, they were brought to the surface. Each emerged into light, sound, and crowds. But the months spent underground could not be left behind in just a few minutes. Above ground, there were cheers, cameras, microphones, headlines. The silence of the underground had turned into noise on the surface. When the last person was brought up, no one remained in the mine. But that did not mean everything was over, because some things do not stay underground. They come up with the people.
The miners returned home. Life appeared to continue where it had left off. But time did not move at the same pace for everyone. Adjusting to sunlight, standing in crowds, sleeping at night. These became new struggles. This story was remembered as a rescue operation. But the real story was not the days spent underground. It was what was learned there. Patience, order, the power of staying together. Because sometimes survival is not about being strong, but about not falling apart. Do not forget to like our video and subscribe to our channel.